Okay, so let's start with our keys and brass sounds. What we have here, there is a sub oscillator. You can go without it if you like. It's not really critical in this preset. What we have here, on the other hand, is pretty closed filter with a lot of envelope, with zero resonance, and the VCF, it has some slight attack. That is something that make the brass more brassy, if I could say that. Another thing is that the slope of the attack is moved this way. To create kind of crescendo sound, but with much lower attack. Typical effects with the chorus, reverb, and chancer, just to add some space and widen the sound a little more. It's simple, one oscillator with sub oscillator, nothing really fancy, no detuning, nothing at all. The pressure to add some modulation to the VCF, but it's not really important here. Yeah, and keyboard tracking, I think. That's it. The most important thing is how the envelope of the VCF is shaped. Yeah, and I think that's it. Another brassy sound. Very similar to the previous one, but this time we got two-pole filter to make it more bright. The attack of the filter, it's similar, but it's more straight rather than curved. Just a little resonance, but I think it's not really important here. Yeah, you can go all the way down as well. Envelope amount, and what creates that vibrato sound here is LFO modulation by LFO2 on the filter. And also there is a pitch modulation by the LFO2 as well on the oscillator. So now we have more present vibrato brassy sound. Okay, this is a sound I really like. It's velocity sensitive, as it's kinda keys-like sound. Simple two oscillators without any modulations, I believe. Yep, nothing here, nothing here, nothing on as a pitch mode. There's a slight pitch mode here, I think, just to slightly detune the first oscillator from the second one, or just to add slight little just a slight little movement. There is also modulation to opens and close the filter with the node velocity, and VCA is straight open. Filter is kinda typical to our patches again. Filter almost all the way down with some envelope. There is also LFO1 modulation here to add kinda tremolo effect, like in Fender Rhodes maybe a little. Yeah. Yeah, so without the filter, it's simple soul wave, but we got a chorus and a section of effects, delay and the reverb. But when you close the filter, it sounds like this. Another keys sound, maybe more like a electric piano. This time we got some release on the VCA. So each note have some tail, even without the reverb. There's no, actually it should be off like this. And so there is no reverb or anything in the FX section. It's just release on the VCA that creates that reverb-like effects. Pretty closed filter with no envelope, no modulations, just simple filtered. Oh, there is some resonance here. I will show you what's the difference with and without the resonance. So when it's open, it's simple straight away. Oh, there's a noise here. So we got noise generator, sorry. And two oscillator shapes, filtered down, almost all the way down. So that noise, yeah, it is present. It's really subtle, but it adds some character to the sound, I believe. When I was creating this patch, I decided to leave it halfway open, and yeah, I think that's it. Keyboard tracking all the way up. Yeah. Okay, let's try something different right now. It's just a reverb here, so it's a 2 oscillator sound. This one without the tone mode, without the pitch mode, yeah. And the second one, but this time they are not pitched 1 octave from each other. Instead, we got the sub oscillator tuned to be, I think, the third, 5 semitones. So it's the fourth, 5 semitones above the main oscillator. To create like maybe flats. Nothing really fancy here. It's transposed 1 octave higher, but doesn't really matter. It's matter where you play on your controller only. Yeah, just reverb. And the filter close to taste. Modulated by the LFO2 to add subtle movement, really slow, subtle movement to the filter. Yeah, the core is that fourth between the first and the second oscillator. We are in the unison 2 mode, and there are slight detune here to make it sound more analog maybe. And I don't know if there is some pan spread just a little to make it wider just a little. Okay, let's try something really simple. Just reverb and delay as typical. It can really fits really well in your mix, even if it sounds really plain right now. There is a sub oscillator. I think it's 1 octave below. Yeah, just simple 2 oscillators with the sub oscillator, with the filter set to taste, with some envelope, modulated by the LFO2 to add subtle. No, it's not modulated. Sorry, but it can be. So you can add slight vibrato-like effect. Let's go funky again, this time with the funky keys. There is enhancer and EQ. I'm not sure it's really important. Just a little. It's just at a little low end. Maybe we can replicate it with this. Yeah, pretty close. Doesn't really matter. Okay, and 2 oscillators with sub oscillator set 1 octave above. Oh, okay. I think, yeah, it's one octave above the main oscillator. And filter sweep. So it's the initial value of the filter sweep is 0, which is 50 Hertz on Deepmind. And the envelope is half the way open with VCF kinda typical to our patches, but the VCA here is not typical, as we want to create keys-like sound. It's just after the medium delay, it just goes off completely. Yeah. And I believe that there is some resonance here. Yeah. So without the resonance is really simple, plain sound, and with the resonance it starts to get funky, or maybe even funkier. Oh, it starts to tweet. I don't want that on that patch. So keep it kinda in the midway. Okay, let's go with some stop sound. I call that Nowhere, if you know the band. I don't know why, but it sounds to me Nowhere-like. What we have in here, It's really fast and will cut through the mix pretty well. There is some VCA decay and sustain to add a little more attack. The more disproportion between the peak here and the sustain here, the more initial attack you have, and it will sound more prominent. In the mix, you might need to compensate, lowering the sustain on the VCA with the overall volume maybe. No effects here, simple 2 shapes, main oscillator with sub oscillator set 1 octave below, 2 unison mode with some oscillation drift. Yeah, you can use it, you can not use it. There is some detune as well here. Okay. Here we have some overall purpose plain piano, electric piano sound, just delay, reverb, typical stuff. What is interesting here is that we got some faked frequency modulation. It's on the oscillator too. Let's unsync it for now. And without the pitch modulation, it's like this. And as we go higher and higher, you can hear frequency modulation, really fast frequency modulation actually. I believe it's almost all the way up, and as well it's modulated by note number. So the LFO1 rate is modulated by note number to match the note you play, to make the LFO1 kinda acts like an oscillator that modulate our oscillator 2. What I found later that if you want to really match the oscillator to match frequency with the LFO to the musical notes, you should add one more modulation with note number to the LFO rate to add one more point. So it's 127 plus 1. This way it's just tuned better. And now we are going to sync those. So instead of frequency modulation, we have now we still got frequency modulation, but when it's synced, it's not changing the pitch, but instead it's changing the sound rapidly. Add last 2 oscillators, and we got this. Another one, this one will be really different from the previous, as we are going to play with the filter right now instead of oscillator. The oscillator is turned on actually, and the pulse width is set to maximum to thin that oscillator as high as we can. This is because I found that even if you want to play with the filter, which we will do in a second, when we got some oscillator run, even if it's not, you cannot hear it, it makes the filter sounds more in tune when you self-oscillate the filter. So to self-oscillate the filter, just go with the resonance pretty high. It starts to self-oscillate at some point. So, look. Oh, yeah, it kicks in. And now we are adding this to make it more stable and more in tune. So we are basically play with the filter right now, and you have to tune it by ear with the frequency, because when you change the frequency here, you change the frequency of the notes, so it has to be tuned by ear. Yeah, and I think that's it. Just chorus and reverb. Without chorus and reverb, it sounds cool as well. Yeah, that's it. So playing with the filter is fun as well. Last one, sound in that section. It will be really similar to previous one, sound-wise, but it's created in different manner. It's not a filter that we heard, no effects as well, so it's just the VCA tail that we can hear as a kind of reverb effect. It's just a straight saw wave without any modulation, without any sub oscillator. It's just tuned 1 octave. No, maybe here. Yeah, it's here. You can change the pitch oscillation, pitch transposition as well of the oscillator. So all I did here is just clever filtering, some resonance, no envelope. Yeah, and I think it is. Keyboard tracking all the way up. Nothing else. Next category, arpeggios and sequences.